Hi, welcome back to another video in this series, and in this video we are going to learn about dynamic routes, how to link and navigate between routes in Next.js. So let's first start with dynamic routing. When we need to add a dynamic parameter to our URL segment, and based on the dynamic parameter, if we want to load the web page information, we can add a path name with some parameter related to metadata of that route in our URL segment. And this is called a dynamic route. You can also look out at the official definition of a URL route on nextjs.org. A dynamic segment or a dynamic route can be created by wrapping a folder name in square brackets. For example, a bracket enclosing ID tag or bracket enclosing slug tag or something else. You can name it whatever you want as per your requirement. Also, these dynamic segments or dynamic routes are passed as parameter props, which is called params, to layouts, page, route, and generate metadata functions. So let's learn how this is done with the help of an example. Let's check our existing application first by running npm run dev. And here if you see, we have a home page and we have a blog page. But what if we wanted to go to a specific blog post, let's say Next.js development? We cannot do it right now since we don't have a page related to this URL segment, or we cannot change it dynamically to something else, let's say full stack. We cannot do it since we don't have a URL matching this parameter. Also, we have this default 404 page shown to us, which is provided to us out of the box by Next.js. So let's get back to our code editor and create this dynamic URL path segment. So in order to do this, you have to go to your page where you want to create your dynamic route. For example, I would like to create a dynamic route inside blog. So I'll right click this blog, create a new file. First of all, enclose this new file inside square brackets and I'll name it slug. And inside this slug, I'll create the default page.js file as discussed in the previous videos. And now I'll click on enter. This will show me an error since I don't have a component created inside this. So I'll quickly create the component inside this file. Now let's save this again and you can see that the error has gone. For simplicity purpose, we'll change the name. Let's change it to dynamic blog post just to explain you this page is dynamic. Let's save this. This will now receive few props. One of them will be params. Without making any more changes, let's first save this and log this param directly and save this file now. Sorry for the spelling mistake. Let's fix this now. It's params. Now save this. I'll also change the content inside this div. I'll add a paragraph element to this and add some default text, that is dynamic blog post, and save this now. Now I'll get back to our browser and first of all let's see what's the console message. So you see that it's nothing but simply just the last message that we saw, that's starting the application. And now if I get back to our browser and refresh it over here, you can see that the text has changed to dynamic blog post. This is coming from the dynamic page that we have created inside blog, and the text which says blog layout comes from the blog page, which is at blog URL. And the header comes from the layout.js file that is at the root of our application. So what about the console log that we created? If I inspect the client side of our application, you can see that there is no console message even though I refresh it as many times as needed. So as we discussed, every component by default is a server-side component. So the console log that we added will be visible to us on the server side. So let's get back to our code editor and check the terminal. And over here, you can see that we have a slug property exactly matching to the file name that we created inside square brackets. And this slug consists of the dynamic URL segment that we pass to our URL on our web browser. So this matches exactly to our slug property. So this is how you create dynamic routes, and we can access this params property for this route not only in our page.js file, but if I create a new layout.js file, create a new functional component inside this, and I'll access the params just like how we did before, and I'll log it over here as well. I'll save this, and now if I get back to our web browser, refresh this, you'll see that the console log shows the slug property twice. I'll stop the server and start it again to show you how it works. If I refresh it now, you can see that you see the console message twice. One coming from the layout.js file and another coming from page.js file. Using this slug, you can create your web page content dynamically by calling an API or by generating static params, which will statically generate your routes at the build time instead of on demand at request time. This will improve your performance of your application and reduce the user wait time to load and see the web page. Now let's see how we can call that slug property and show it over here in our paragraph element. So if I call params.slug and save this now, and on our web page, let's refresh this. You can see that there is no content loading like it did before for our dynamic route segment. So in order to fix this, we have to pass the children prop for this route segment, which is the page for this route segment. So let's fix this first. So going to our layout.js file, we'll also have access to another prop, that is children. We'll pass this children prop over here and save this now. If we get back to our web browser, you can see that we have this dynamic slug shown over here. If I change this to something else, you can see that it changes as well. Let's remove the console logs for now and save our files. So as of now, you have seen how we can create one dynamic URL segment with the help of an example for a blog page, where we have a slug after our blog, which we can pass dynamically and load the page content depending on the slug. What if we had more URL segments in front of our slug, for example, let's say date? How we would do this? Since this is a possible scenario you will face while developing your project. Let's learn this with the help of an example. Going back to our code editor, if I right click my slug file and create another parameter and name it date and create the page.js file inside this date and save this, I'll have to create the React functional component for this page now. And over here, I'll similarly pass the params props just how we did before. I'll log it over here as well and save this now. And now if we go to our web browser, you can see that our earlier application works perfectly fine with the URL segment of Next.js development against our blog URL, which you can verify over here in our slug. It works perfectly fine. But we don't see a console log message over here since we did not add it anywhere except our date page. So in order to do this, we will have to add the date URL segment in our web page also, just like how we designed it over here. So in order to do this, let's pass this date over here. We'll pass it randomly, let's say 29 April, and I'll save this now. And when we go to this page, if I go to inspect element, you'll again see that there is no console message. Since this is a server-side component, we'll get back to our code editor. Now here you can see that we have a slug as well as we have a date over here. So what about our slug page? What information do we have over here? So in order to see this, let's add a console log over here and remove our console log from here. Getting back to our web page, if I refresh this now, you can see that there is no console message for our slug page. The reason why this happens is because this page has been replaced dynamically by this date page now. And in order to use this slug, we can still do this. So in order to access this slug, we can go to our layout.js file and move this console log from here, and we will add it to our layout.js file. Let's save this now. And as you can see, the slug has now appeared over here in the console message. So the top wrapper, that is our layout, can access all the parameters in the nested URL segment. But the page that can be replaced is not visible on the UI and cannot access these functionalities. I hope you understood this well. In case you did not, please repeat this section and check out how we did everything for dynamic routes. Pause the video at several places. You can also go to nextjs.org and check out the official documentation related to dynamic routing. We will also learn about dynamic routing in our detailed video for the project section later on. But for now, this is all good to start with. And what about the slug and the date parameter that we got in the date page? So let's show this over here on the UI. Let's save this now. And going back to our web page, you can see that we have access to Next.js development and the date as well. And if I get back to one URL segment before, you can see that the date disappears. But we can see the slug for that date in the page.js file. If I enable this console log and save this, you can see that. Let's first remove this log from here as well and save this now. And if I now get back to our web browser and refresh this, you can see that the slug appears over here. Let's try this once again. So it does not, since we didn't add a console log over here, we removed this. So I'll quickly add it over here inside our slug page.js file just to confirm it once again. And now you can see that the slug appears once again. I'll now close everything. And we will now move on to the next section of this video, that is navigating and linking. Now as you may remember, we have already added a header to our layout at the root level. So we'll add some navigation links over here in the header and try to navigate to blog page and the slug pages dynamically using the links. So let's get back to our component. Let's close everything else. And over here in the header, I'll remove this default text and I'll add a UL element over here and add some links. I'll repeat it twice for simplicity and I'll add some default classes to it. Let's name it nav. I'll name it nav item. I'll replace this with this link element as well. We'll save this and in our global.css file, I'll create this classes nav and nav link item. Let's check the name once again. It's nav item. So I'll add it over here and on our UL element, I'll remove the default styling. For example, list style, we'll set it to none and we'll also set the margin to 0 and the padding to 0. This will remove the default styling of our nav element. Also in our link tag, I'll add an anchor tag and we will add some links over here. Let's add blog and over here, let's add another element. We'll not add a link right now. I'll simply add it as home. I'll move this above, save this now. And let's check the UI first. So let's get back to our home page before anything else. So now you can see that we have home in blog page respectively, linked to our application. Let's fix the stylings first. We'll not go in details, but just fix the basic stylings for this. So on our code editor, I'll go to nav and over here, I'll first of all make the display block, inline and save this. And on our web page, you can see that the links appear in the same line. It would look good if we had some padding and border to this nav item. So we'll add some padding over here. We'll add padding of let's say 20 pixel. And we'll add a border of 1 pixel solid white. Save this now. And you can see that it looks good, but the position is not aligned to our web page. So to fix this, we'll add a float left property to our link. So we'll go to our nav item and we'll add float left. Save this now. You can see that our links look good now, but they are still not that good. But since our focus is on learning navigation and linking, we'll ignore this now and straightway move on to the linking part. So if we get back to our code editor now and go to header.jsx, over here, I'll add a new href for this blog and we'll name it /blog and save this. And for home, we'll add a slash and save this. So now if I click on blog, you can see that we are able to go to the blog. And if I click on home, we are able to get to our home page again. Let's see it again. We are able to navigate on different web pages, but if we closely inspect this, you can notice that the application refreshes on every page link. This is because our application makes a network request each time we click on the native anchor element. Let's see this on the network tab. If we get to here and if I go to my home page, you can see a network request has been sent to load the home page. Let's clear this and go to our blog page. You can see that the another request has been sent requesting the required page. In order to avoid this, we have a navigation link item provided to us directly by Next.js. Let's see how this works. So if we get back to our code editor and let's try to replace this anchor element with a link element. This is a component provided to us directly by Next.js and we have to import it from next/link. So once we have this, we'll replace every other anchor element with this link component. Make sure that you close this with the link itself. Now, if I save this and get back to our web application and click on different pages, you can see that the page loads without refreshing the web browser. And if we get back to our inspect element and go to networks, you can see that there is no network request sent to our server. So the navigation is going on the client side. Let's close this now and see how we can navigate to dynamic slugs that we created or the dynamic routes. So on our blog page, we had a list of blog titles coming in from the blogs array. So over here, if we wanted to navigate to 1, 2 and 3 as dynamic URL slugs, then first of all, let's pass this blog property to our title. We can do this by using props on the component. So we'll pass this as slug is equals to, and we'll pass blog over here. Let's save this and you can see that we have a warning. Each child in the list should have a unique prop. So in React.js and Next.js, each list item that you iterate on the UI with the help of components or fragments, you have to assign a unique key to that component in the list. This is because React.js uses virtual DOM in order to perform various DOM manipulation, and this is then at the end of stable DOM update replaced to a real DOM. And this unique key ID helps React in creating that virtual DOM and deciding if it should render that component or it should not. So we'll assign it a key, and for now, simplicity purpose, we'll make blog index as the key. Let's save this now. You can see that our warning has been removed. In going inside the blog title component, we'll have this slug available to us over here inside the props. We'll then use this slug and show it over here and save this now. Let's check the UI first, and you can see that we have all the dynamic values coming in front of our title. Now our intention is to load these URLs using these IDs, for example like this, blog 1, 2 and so on, but not directly like this, but from the blog page by clicking on these elements. So in order to do this, let's get back to our code editor once again, and over here we'll replace this paragraph element to the link element that we learned before. Let's replace this now and save this. And we'll use the special props of this link, that is href. And over here, we'll first of all add the preceding URL segments enclosed in this special tilde which is located below your escape key. And over here, we'll add blog followed by a slash, and then enclosed with dollar and curly brackets, we'll add this dynamic slug property over here and save this. So with the loop that loads these blog titles with unique slugs, it will also load the link with unique slugs. So if we save this now and get back to our web application, and now if we click on this item, you can see that we are able to navigate to the different page and load the dynamic slug. Let's try this again with some different ID. Let's say blog title 4. We are able to do this as well. Now we'll move on to the next part, that is how to make our links active and highlight them respectively. For example, if you are on a blog page and you are on /blog, then your blog tab should be highlighted on the header. Similarly, if you are on home page, your home page tab should be highlighted on the navbar. So let's see how we can do that. Over here inside header.jsx file, we will import a new hook that is called use path name provided to us by Next navigation. So let's do this now. We'll import use path name. You can import it from next/navigation. And now inside our component, we'll call it using constant path name is equals to use path name. This path name will give us the link to active path in our application. So once we have this, we need to highlight a tab. So in order to highlight this, we'll create one more class inside our global CSS file. We'll call it active. And inside this active class, we'll invert the color combination. So right now we have black background and white text. So we'll invert it to white background and black text for the active links. So let's do that now. We'll make the color black, the background color white. Let's save this now. And we'll apply this active class dynamically on our active tab item. So we'll first of all remove this from here. And we'll switch it to curly braces. And over here we'll check if the path name is equals to home page, that is slash. If that is true, we'll use nav item in combination to active class. If this is not true, we'll only use nav item. There are more clean ways to do this, and make sure that this tutorial is for beginners. So I'm showing you the easiest way to do it right now. In the later videos, we'll learn the best way possible to add the dynamic classes over here. So once this is done, we'll simply replicate this for blog as well. Let's save this now. Also for blog, the URL is /blog. Let's make a change over here. Also, our application stops working right now. This is because we have not made our component a client-side component, and it is still a server-side component. So we cannot use path name over here. So in order to do this, we'll go at the top of our file, and over here we'll declare it as use client. Save this now, and now our error has gone. And if we save this now, you can see that the application highlights the active link, but it is not still clean. So what we can do is we'll go to our CSS. So we'll go to our body tag, and over here we'll add display and make it flex. Also we'll add flex direction and set it to column. Let's save this now. So our UI looks much better than before. And one more thing that we can do is we can add some margin to our layout and the content of this page. So let's do that as well. So I'll go to our page inside blog. We'll quickly add some styles over here. We'll add margin top. We'll add 20 pixels over here. We'll copy this and we'll also add it to the layout and save this. So you can see that it looks much cleaner. and we can switch between different tabs, and we have the active links visible to us. So we have seen how you can navigate from one page to another using link component that is provided to us by Next.js out of the box. Now we'll see how we can programmatically navigate from one page to another using useRouter hook. So in order to do that, let's get back to our code editor, and over here inside header.jsx, we will first of all remove all the link elements and we'll convert this link to a button. So in order to do that, let's change it to button. Similarly, we'll change this link as well to button. And over here, instead of href, we'll use another property. And for that, we'll first of all import useRouter from Next.router. And over here, we will change this name to router instead of path name. And in our button, instead of href, we'll remove first of all these hrefs on the buttons, and we'll add on-click event handler. And inside this, we'll call router.push, and we'll pass our homepage route on the homepage button. And simply we'll copy and paste this on the blog button, and we'll change the route to blog since you want to navigate to blog page on the blog button click. So we'll fix the format first. Let's save this now. We'll also remove this link import. And now if we check our browser, you'll see that we have this error which says that Next.router was not mounted. This is because we have imported it from Next/router, which supports page-based routing, and we are importing it inside a app-based routing model. So you'll have to change it to navigation instead of router. Let's save this now. Now if we get back to our application and refresh this, you can see that we get an error for path name not available. So let's import that back again. Let's save this now. Now our application works better as before, with some minor issues on the button element. Since this is a button and not an anchor tag, there is some default style for the button itself. So we have seen how you can navigate using link component provided to us by Next.js, and how you can programmatically navigate using useRouter provided from Next Navigation. Let's see another way of navigating using redirects. So if I go to my application, and over here in the home page under page.js available at the root level, let me import redirect from Next Navigation. So I'll first of all create it as an redirect, and I'll import it from Next Navigation. Let's save this, and I'll use this redirect, and in our application call this redirect and pass it /blog. Let's save this now. And on my home page, if I try to visit my home page, you can see that it will always redirect me back to the blog. Similarly, I can remove it from here. Now if I try to go back to a home page, you can see that I'm able to do so. So this is how redirect works. There is one more way using which you can navigate between the pages, which is the native history API. So Next.js allows us to use native window.history.pushState and window.history.replaceState methods to update the browser history tag without reloading the page. Push state and replace state basically allow us to integrate and sync with use pathname and use search param hooks provided to us by Next.js. We'll skip this for now since these are specific use case driven scenarios, and we'll learn about them in detail when we'll be building a project. So this is it for now in this video. Make sure to check out the links in description for additional resources. Also like and comment on these videos if you appreciate my work and would like to learn more about topics like these. Do subscribe to this channel and share this video with your network.